Live from the world headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital, this is the news with Rick Sanchez.
Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm Rick Sanchez, and I'm here to welcome all of you who are watching us from all over the world, including those of you who are watching us on your phone using the Portable TV mobile app. I'm going to share some frightening videos that are coming out of the South China Sea with you today. It's quite a sight to behold, but before I do that, let me take you back to what was going on in that same place about a month ago, because this kind of, I think, sets the story up better. So let's do that. 1 month ago, tensions between Hong Kong and Beijing were boiling over. So the United States sent in literally 1/4 of its carrier fleet to the waters that are surrounding China. China did not take that well. In fact, here's the warning that China sent the United States. Xi Jinping's government officially warned the United States that they would consider deploying countermeasures, in quotations, against the warships, including carrier-killing ballistic missiles. Wow, right? China insists that the United States is trying to provoke them. Okay, that was a month ago. Now, using China's own description, a new provocation may be underway. This time it's China's arch rival and U.S. ally Taiwan that is conducting military exercises that are obviously meant to send Beijing a stern message. That message is a massive, massive live fire military exercise on land, air, and sea, meant to, quote, show China, this is what Taiwan's president is saying, show China Taiwan's determination to defend itself. You ready? Here it is. So what is the message that we here in the United States are sending China with some of what you just saw right there, and doing it through Taiwan? Is it justified? How will China react to all of this? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to drill down, because this is a place where the next major global conflict could easily erupt, and because we think that you should know about it. This is the News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it's time to do news again. All right, here we go with the list of the questions we think you'll be asking tomorrow after watching our newscast today. In the midst of a global pandemic, Taiwan flexes its U.S. hardware military. Why? Anger and frustration boiling over in Florida and Georgia. What is all the fuss about? And why do tens of thousands of mink have to be put to death in Spain? Wow. Okay. They are among the most massive and certainly the most visual live fire military exercises that we've seen in that part of the world in quite some time. And they're presented, well, they're presented that way for a purpose. The purpose is messaging. And the message is, back off, China. Here now, correspondent Alex Mihailovich with the latest from the South China Sea.
Air, sea, and land forces using live ammunition to show off Taiwan's military might.
The Heilong exercise is an annual major event of our military, and it shows the combat power of our troops. We want the world to see our determination and efforts to protect our country.
This year, 8,000 soldiers took part in the show, which is modeled on a potential invasion of the island from mainland China. China has always insisted that Taiwan is a part of its territory, and to some degree, a peaceful status quo relationship has been internationally respected for decades. Through the years, even the United States has shown appreciation for the relationship. But now, with tensions high between the U.S. and China, the current administration in D.C. is taking a less conciliatory stance with Taiwan and other Chinese territorial claims in the South China Sea.
I think things have shifted dramatically in the region. I think you're seeing countries all throughout Asia, and indeed in Southeast Asia and in the Pacific, recognizing that the United States is prepared to do the things necessary to assist them in protecting their valid legal claims.
China says that the rhetoric and other moves by the Trump administration are attempts to destabilize the region. Aside from brash statements, the U.S. is actively patrolling the area, which is half a world away from its mainland, with 2 warships and occasional flybys of B-1B supersonic bombers. Taiwan aside, without a doubt, the South China Sea is very valuable. About 1/3 of the world's shipping flows through the strategic body of water. 10% of all the world's fisheries are there. And to top it off, the South China Sea is thought to contain 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 11 billion barrels of oil. The usual suspects want to increase America's foothold in that region.
I think support for Taiwan maintaining its separate status and indeed deepening ties with the United States remains very strong.
But many countries in the area would rather avoid trouble. A number of regional players are saying that they have historically been able to manage their own relations with China, and that they are eager to continue moving forward peacefully without interference from the other side of the globe. For News with Rick Sanchez, I'm Alex Mihailovich.
This is a fascinating development. Joining us now for more on this topic are 2 guests who come at this from maybe slightly different points of view. John Sitilides, who is a geopolitical strategist at Trilogy Advisors, and Gerald Horne, who is a professor of history at the University of Houston. Gerald, I'm going to begin with you. Is our government, the United States of America, and our military, do you believe, justified to be doing military exercises right off the coast of China and or using Taiwan as a proxy to do so?
Absolutely not. Imagine, if you will, what would happen if China were to engage in military maneuvers off the coast of Southern California, or more provocatively, off the coast of Washington, D.C. Obviously, you have to put this in a broader context. That is to say that Washington is frightened that China is in the passing lane. By some measures, China already has an economy that's larger than that of the United States. However, the United States still maintains a military advantage, or so it thinks, and so it is putting a full court press on China, which not only includes these military maneuvers, but also pressure with regard to Hong Kong, also pressure on so-called allies, including Great Britain, to not go forward with a telecommunications deal with the Chinese giant, speaking of Huawei, and that also includes putting pressure on Canada to continue to detain the daughter of the founder of Huawei, who is under house arrest in Vancouver, British Columbia. So you have to see this in a wider context.
Gerald, thanks so much. John, you heard what Gerald said. How is he right or how is he wrong?
The global commercial system upon which the nations of the world, including China, have been able to enjoy prosperity, peace, and flourishment is largely dependent on freedom of navigation, freedom of overflights, and free and open shipping. And what China has done in the South China Sea over the last decade is to undermine those principles and illegally and unlawfully declare one of the world's most strategic waterways, almost all of which are international waters, as sovereign Chinese territory. And this is all against the wishes of its neighbors, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei. And so this is very, very problematic because none of these countries are able to stand up to China's very powerful military. The only country that is able to do so and to defend open shipping for all the countries of the world, not just itself, is the United States. So the U.S. is there showing will, showing credibility, and demonstrating to China's neighbors and to China that it will stand up for these very important principles. And as it pertains to Taiwan, it's President Xi Jinping who issued in a speech 2 years ago a warning to Taiwan that it will be unified with China, whether it wants to be or not, by 2049. So it's China that's threatening Taiwan, and Taiwan engaged in self-defense.
Okay. Let me go back to you, Gerald. He has a great point, especially about China hoarding all those islands in the South China Sea and essentially developing them, many of them for military purposes, which is something the United States has been complaining about. Isn't John right when he makes that point, that China is not blameless here?
Well, look, if there are disputes in the South China Sea, they should be settled between and amongst the parties, not least Vietnam and the Philippines. But once again, you have to see this in a broader context. I trust you paid attention to the fire-breathing speech by Attorney General William Barr just yesterday at the Gerald Museum, where he issued a bill of indictment, not only against China, but also U.S. corporations like Apple and Hollywood studios that have interests in China. This was preceded by another fire-breathing speech by FBI Director Christopher Wray, who announced that already, as we speak, there are thousands of investigations into Chinese alleged cyber theft, alleged espionage, and other transgressions, supposedly, that are sweeping within its ambit many Chinese Americans, many of Chinese ancestry in the United States, and including the chairman of the chemistry department at Harvard, Charles Lieber. Mr. Trump has already announced the phase 2 trade deal is off the table, and I think China would have said the same thing since it called upon China to remake its economy in the eyes and in the vision of the United States of America. So we need to realize that this is Cold War II. It's very dangerous, and U.S. military maneuvers off the coast of China is not solving anything.
I take your point, but you did not answer my question, and I'm going to hold you to it. Is China wrong to be hoarding all that land off its coast?
Well, I wouldn't use the verb hoarding. There have been disputes in international tribunals involving Philippines. Those disputes are still being litigated, as far as I know.
All right, thank you so much. John, let me just go back to you real quick with 30 seconds left. The argument is that the United States is bullying China because China's too successful and it's mad about that. What do you make of that argument?
China is engaged in unrestricted warfare, not only in terms of its military operations against its neighbors. I mean, it sank a Vietnamese boat in April. It's harassing the maritime fleets of all the other neighbors in the South China Sea region. And it's threatening Taiwan openly, including using the cover of the COVID pandemic to engage in amphibious exercises that would replicate an invasion of Taiwan. So it's China that's engaged in belligerent activities against all of its neighbors, and the U.S., working with Japan, with the United Kingdom, with France, is upholding navigational freedom and overflight freedom in one of the most important waterways of the world in accordance with international law. And it's China that rejected the tribunal, the international tribunal that favored the Philippines' position when the Philippines went to an international court. China simply says, we don't care what the tribunal says, we reject it. That's not the way to operate in a rules-based international system.
Two contrasting points of view, but two very well delivered, well thought out, and very smart perspectives. This is what news is supposed to look like. We're so happy we have both of you. Thank you, gentlemen. There is a timely conflict occurring as we speak in Georgia, pitting a city against a state. Earlier this week, the governor there announced that while people there should wear masks, the government cannot force people to wear masks. Not long after that, the mayor of Atlanta announced that citizens have to wear masks. Who's right? Well, that will now be decided by a court because both parties are suing each other. Meanwhile, in neighboring Florida, it seems like the whole place is in a state of anger and confusion. With COVID-19 cases surging, the level of fear and frustration seems near the boiling point. RT correspondent John Huddy reporting today from Miami.
Miami has always been hot, just not like this. The Center for Public Integrity reports that a new document prepared for the White House Coronavirus Task Force lists Florida and 17 other states as being in the coronavirus red zone, with 11 of those states, including Florida, having more than 10% of COVID-19 tests coming back positive. We've been reporting for almost a month about Miami being the epicenter of the COVID-19 virus in Florida. This week, the mainstream media picked up on it with wall-to-wall coverage of Florida's outbreak, and public officials, including City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, making the rounds on the various talk shows talking about what Miami is doing to stop the outbreak. The problem is almost every other day a new record is being set. Reuters reported Thursday that Florida recorded the largest one-day increase in deaths from the coronavirus since the pandemic began, and the state's second largest increase in cases ever. As RT reported 4 months ago on March 18th, there were 314 COVID-19 cases statewide and 7 deaths. Today, there are more than 315,000 and more than 4,600 deaths. Governor Ron DeSantis, who, while during a press conference this week in Miami, said he couldn't recall if there was even a case of COVID-19 back in early March, was heckled by a protester.
Every day, and you are doing nothing.
So I think
You're falsifying information, and you are misleading the public.
DeSantis, coming under increasing pressure, continues to deny any plans to roll back the state's reopenings, which started back in May. But some top Florida officials are calling on DeSantis to impose a mandatory statewide stay-at-home order. Meanwhile, this week, the city of Miami Beach ordered all short-term rentals to be shut down. That's existing and future reservations. And Miami-Dade County passed an emergency ordinance increasing fines for people not wearing masks. For the news with Rick Sanchez, John Huddy.
Good stuff, John. Thanks so much. This is the news with Rick Sanchez. You're watching our special coverage. When we come back, okay, we showed you how things in Georgia, things in Florida, there's a lot of frustration. A lot of people are having a tough time coping. What are the coping mechanisms for all of us, especially those of us trying to maintain relationships or those trying to find relationships in these difficult times? Psychologist Lisa Palmer will join us from Florida. Hey, welcome back. I think we can all agree that sanity is a very important virtue. But it seems these days that in places like Florida, as we just showed you, and other red zones around the country, really around the world, it's a virtue that's sometimes difficult to achieve these days. So we want to go back to Florida now and talk to a noted relationship psychologist, Lisa Palmer, to give us some advice on this situation. Yeah, you should be smiling because I'll tell you, these are times where we almost have to force smiles. Hey, let me start with this. Everything that we're all going through right now, the social distancing, the people wearing masks, the frustrations, do you get a feeling that we are emotionally going to be changed maybe for a long time, if not forever, as a result of what we're going through right now?
Hopefully for the positive in certain ways. I know that a lot of people have been making changes in their relationships and their lives. There's a lot of people that have decided to get divorced because they can't live with their significant others, they figured out. And there's other, families that have made more positive changes as far as spending more time with their kids and doing more home activities, home projects, and kind of getting back to basics with having those family dinners together and so on and so forth. So I think on that level, there are people that are making positive changes either way that you look at it.
Okay, so there's two parts to this. There are people out there who are trying to maintain their relationship, but suddenly they find themselves spending a lot more time at home than they used to, and they're having a tough time with that, or for whatever other reason. And then there are the people who are looking for a relationship, but how do you find it underneath masks and social distancing? So let's tackle the first one. What are the skills that you need right now to maintain a healthy relationship with your partner during these times?
Well, definitely during these times, anxiety is going to run really, really high, maybe even more than usual. So you definitely have to practice patience and more kindness all around in your life. But also communication. Communication is key, and expressing your needs and wants and what's important to you, and taking this time to, if you need therapy as an assistance to do that, figure out what your dreams and aspirations are together and try to build goals together, talk to each other, spend time together, and figure out what's working in your relationship and what isn't working, and try to make those changes.
And I imagine it would probably help to not feel like you're alone, because I betcha right now more than ever, there are tons of people who are going through the same situation, the same weirdness that you're feeling. Many other people, I imagine. I don't want to speak for your clients, but I bet you it's almost universal, right?
Well, there's one thing to be alone, and there's another thing to feel lonely, and I think there's a distinction between the two. You can definitely be alone and feel okay with being alone, but, as human beings, we want to have that connection with others. And there's, social media where you can reach out to people and make connections. I think you were talking about single folks and how single folks can be doing that. And there are, have been applications and online sites where people can meet each other, and also social media. It's always been a challenge in this digital age to figure out how to, figure all that out online and meeting someone, because a lot of times people don't really come across on text messaging or through social media platforms the same. But I do think that people, again, need to be patient and kind, and it could be opportunity to really get to know someone through those mediums and to connect with them more emotionally as far as their personality and getting to know them, so that when we finally come out of this, you can maybe actually spend time with them in person and have that experience.
That's great advice. And you know what? Maybe the best piece of advice that Lisa gave us is, if you're feeling some of these things and you want to talk about it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with picking up the phone and calling Lisa or somebody like Lisa. And you don't have to visit her. You could even do it online. There's a ton of great online help out there that's available to all of us right now. So, hey, always great talking to you, kid. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, and not all at once.
Lisa Palmer joining us live there. We appreciate it. Now, wow, talk about weird. Listen to this. In Spain, there has been a devastatingly large outbreak of coronavirus among animals in fur farms. Tens of thousands of mink apparently have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and now they're going to have to be put to death. Spanish officials have already ordered the killing of 90,000 animals. Who knew, right? Here's RT's Trinity Chavez with more.
While officials are ordering the killing of nearly 100,000 mink following an outbreak at a farm where animals are bred for fur. The Department of Agriculture, Livestock and Environment of Spain's Aragon region is ordering the slaughter of 92,700 mink after 7 workers on the farm tested positive for COVID-19, and the animals were found to be infected with the coronavirus. While the test initially came back negative, subsequent tests confirmed that 78 of 90 animals, about 87% of the sample, tested positive for the coronavirus. This after hundreds of thousands of mink were culled in the Netherlands and in Denmark after 2 farm workers were infected at a mink farm in the Netherlands in May. The World Health Organization telling AFP that it could be the first known cases of animal to human transmission. At a press conference in June, WHO epidemiologist Maria van Kerkhove said, "Indeed, there are some mink that have been found positive in the Netherlands and in Denmark, and what we understand from these investigations that are currently ongoing is that there were individuals who infected the minks, people who infected the mink, and in turn, some of these mink infected some people. It's very limited in terms of transmission happening between the people and the mink, and some of those mink have been culled, have been killed. We are learning about what this actually means in terms of transmission and what role they may play." Now, experts say that the virus is predominantly transmitted through droplets, which gives them more clues as to which animals may be more susceptible to transmission. However, they say that more research still needs to be done to better understand the role this virus plays. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
That is so bizarre. They're saying cats can apparently transmit it, but dogs can't, or vice versa. It depends on the animals. It is wild.
Scientists.
That's a good word choice.
Scientific stuff, yeah.
Good word choice. Wild, by the way. All right, Steve Christakos, as you see, is joining us now. Let's start with where we left you yesterday. We told you that one of the most prolific sports franchises in the entire United States was about to have this blockbuster report that was going to be filed on them. The report came out. Right. It was probably not a dud, but it wasn't as big as we thought.
Well, the rumors were getting out of control, but once the Washington Post reported this, as we suspected, it was in a sexual misconduct nature, and it was about, to be specific, 15 women are accusing executive front office members of a lot of sexual harassment and verbal abuse over the years from 2006 to 2019. Right. Now, 14 of the 15 are anonymous. They signed non-disclosure agreements and feared they would face litigation if their names were released. But we do know that 3 of those members are no longer with the team. It's Richard Mann, Alex Santos, and Larry Michael. They were executive office members. And Snyder himself, the owner, Dan Snyder, there were no allegations of misconduct against him specifically mentioned in the article.
So that's essentially it. They basically have a report. There are people who are filing complaints, legitimate complaints against the team. And now it's going to be in the courts. Right. It's the kind of thing that's probably going to be handled in the courts.
Yes, there's an internal investigation going on. And the league is saying once the internal investigation that the Redskins have hired for themselves to do this, once it's done, complete, then they will address the situation and deliver whatever penalties necessary.
Okay. We'll just let that be where it is. Sports highlights. What do you got?
Let's go. Aaron Judge, Yankees outfielder now.
Baseball is back.
An intra-squad game now are going on. So his first one back actually crushes this 400-foot home run to center field. Check this out.
Let's watch it. Ready, go.
This. And that's, we're not talking about batting practice here. This is 95-mile-per-hour fastball coming right down the center. He hits it 400 feet out there. So, you know, he's ready, basically. Aaron Judge is ready to go for opening day next Thursday, July 23rd, here in D.C. against the Nationals, by the way.
He's got a swing just like yours.
Yeah, just like mine. Yeah. We're the same size, too, 6'7", 250.
I mean, this guy's a monster.
He is a monster.
So, you know, when God shaped him, he said, you are going to play baseball in the major leagues.
Yes.
Here's your body. It's perfect.
You know what? I have one more, though, real quick, Rick. Do you want to see Simone Biles?
Go, quick. You got 5 seconds.
Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast. Check this out. She does a double tuck coming out of this double lay. So apparently it's a very difficult move to do.
And we end the show with this video of Simone
She's
Biles.
ready. If the Olympics were starting next week, she would be winning more gold medals.
Thank you so much, man. That was great. Way to sneak that in there.
Yes.
See you later.